Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a few interesting developments to get into. For starters, we have a post on X from RFK and the Maha Alliance. Let's get into it.
Dear Kamala Harris, let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you. You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted.
Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicide.
Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money. Because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
My message to all Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
Paid for by Maha Alliance and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Well, that was certainly eye-opening. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Next, we have a letter out of Florida to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Wednesday, October 23rd, Florida Representative Corey Mills wrote a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland demanding he investigate a blatant violation of the Hatch Act committed by Vice President Kamala Harris. Mills points to a recent press conference held by the VP where she used inflammatory language against former President Donald Trump, concluding her statement by asking the public, "What do the American people want?"
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable.
Throughout the press conference, Kamala continuously made potentially defamatory statements regarding the former president.
In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within,
many of which have at this point been disproven. Kamala Harris made references to former political advisor John Kelly's allegations of Donald Trump, where he stated the president wished he had Adolf Hitler's generals working for him.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had.
statements which have been refuted by numerous officials. Kamala Harris referenced multiple unproven conversations, saying this is a window into who Donald Trump really is.
Further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is.
Mills recommends investigation into this press conference, stating it appears to be direct use of official authority to affect the upcoming election. Mills' request has sparked a debate over the enforcement of the Hatch Act and the accountability of high-ranking officials. Supporters of this investigation emphasize the importance of upholding ethical standards in government, while critics argue that these allegations are politically motivated. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is the Hatch Act? The Hatch Act is a federal law passed in 1939 that limits certain political activities of federal employees, as well as some state, DCF, and local government employees who work in connection with federally funded programs. The law's purposes are to ensure that federal programs and federal assets are administered or used in a nonpartisan fashion, to protect federal employees from political coercion in the workplace, and to ensure that federal employees are advanced based on merit and not based on political affiliation. The problem many see with using these federal assets to further your political goals is that your opponent does not have the same access to those same assets as you. So what do you guys think? Should Kamala Harris be investigated for this? Let us know in the comments down below. Next, I bring you to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where officials are currently investigating around 2,500 voter registration forms that have been flagged for potential fraud. This is according to confirmed reports from the Pennsylvania Department of State. This inquiry began after the county reported receiving 2 batches of suspicious voter registration forms close to the submission deadline. The Lancaster County Board of Elections stated that these suspected fraudulent forms were submitted at or near the deadline for registration. Both the local district attorney's office and the Board of Elections are collaborating to examine and verify the legitimacy of these applications. District Attorney Heather Adams goes over the detail in this press conference.
While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. During this preliminary investigations, detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate. In these instances, the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. Thankfully, we stopped part 1, right? That was getting a voter on the books that perhaps shouldn't have been. But part 2 is whether or not anyone intended to turn that application then into a fraudulent vote.
Anyone who tries part 2, potentially, we're going to find you. This is not right. It's illegal, it's immoral, and we found it, and we're going to take care of it.
Well, that's all we have for now, but give us a like and subscribe, and we'll continue to update you on the latest stories. I'm Chloe Lane, WTPM News.